Well, hello everybody. Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead. We're over here at Pecan Grove. Y'all probably recognize this behind me back here. This is one of my food plots that we plant for the wildlife every year. Showed it to you several times during the winter months. A lot of our deer videos had this in it here. Well, it had we had ryegrass planted in here, and it was like waist deep in here, and I let it go to seed and just die. A lot of weeds that started coming back up. Of course, I got the beautiful green Argentina Bahia right here beside me, and I'm trying to let that kind of filter its way around in it. That's the reason I didn't cut it. There was some patches of it around in it. I cut that because it had seeds on it where it can maybe spread a little bit. But we got to get rid of this stuff in here, all this weeds and stuff like this, and I got to start thinking about what can I do this summer for the wildlife back here, the deer, the turkeys, and stuff like that. Because you see, if I keep that, oh, we got neighbors shooting guns today. If we keep that going back here, you know, right now, then what that does is it keeps the pressure down on animals wanting to come to my garden if they have plenty back here in the woods to eat. Now this is probably a quarter of a mile from my cornfield that I have up there, and I'm hoping that by putting something back here, possibly I can keep stuff back this away. So that's where we're at. I mean, the weather right now, yesterday was 99.5. Today's supposed to be 97. We had a heat index yesterday of 113. It's supposed to be 107 today. And then we have some rain moving in tomorrow, sometimes spotty showers or something where we could get a little bit. But we're in that transaction period now where we're moving from spring to summertime. And with that, then, you know, we got to start thinking about out with the old stuff and in with the new stuff. And that's kind of where I want to go today, is out with the old and in with the new. That seems to be something that has been transpiring for many, many, many decades now. You know, Wanda and I were talking about this. It's so hard today to actually find the truth out about anything, because so much of the new stuff that's out there for us to look at doesn't have a lot of the true history in it. So the only way that you can find the true history is you got to go back and dig into literature, and preferably books that have an old copyright date on them, so that you can actually learn some of the truth. You know, I mean, I did this with electroculture years ago, because we know, after looking at it, I found documents where the government covered it up, and I actually got a hold of some of the old literature that the government had that talked about how they were praising it. And then big chemical companies got involved, and fertilizer companies got involved, and then the next thing you know, it was put into a hush mode. And then that's just one instance. Other instances, like farming techniques, different things to this nature, I looked into old books and found, you know, your libraries throw these books away all the time because they're not what's quote-unquote new. They're not up-to-date, new technology and stuff like that. After looking at a lot of the way the older stuff, especially stuff that had the nutritional value of certain plants, how much of a certain plant a person needed, in order to be able to keep a family sustainable for a year and all this kind of stuff. I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's not really, you know, that's not really that much food. But then I pulled up the same stuff for today, and the nutritional value is so different on it that it takes like 5 times as much for us to get the same nutritional value that our forefathers got. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is crazy. But we have to understand, we have depleted our land of so much stuff that the plants need, that we're not getting what we need to get in our daily diet. And that's why the supplement companies are becoming mega rich, because they're trying to supplement what we used to get naturally. And it's not possible anymore, because today, you talk to someone about taking a soil test kit on their property, they go, well, I'll run up to the extension service and do the NPK, you know. Well, that's okay. But NPK is not what's going to determine your health. Now, will the plant produce? Yes, it will produce. It's what farmers have done for so many years now, until they've depleted the soil of the magnesium, the manganese, the copper, the zinc, the boron. You know, all these kind of minerals are being depleted out of the soil, and therefore they grow beautiful, healthy looking produce. We see it in the grocery stores, and we think, wow, we're getting some really good stuff, when really all we're getting is something that's void of the minerals that our forefathers had. Bad teeth used to, years ago, just wasn't one of those things that you saw. I'm just sitting here, I thought I saw something walk behind me. Anyway, maybe I didn't. But I was just, I was thinking about that, how that the bone density of people are changing. Oh, I see it's on the screen of my camera now. Okay, I see it. I thought it was walking behind me here in a food plot. I'm like, what is that walking back there? But the bone density of people literally has changed so much. My daddy, when he was a young man, would tell me, he was a pup wooder for many years of his life. He would talk about how that men would challenge each other as to who could pick up and tote the biggest piece of wood. Now, pupwood was 6 foot long, and Dad talked about how that some men would pick up pieces of 6 foot old pine, where they cut a pine tree up in 6 foot lengths, how that they would, some of them be 10 inches in diameter, some of them would go up to 14 inches in diameter, and there's an art my dad used to show me about how you would break it across your leg and, put it up on your shoulder and be able to tote it. And he said men would challenge one another as to who could tote the heaviest piece of wood. Never once was I ever told that anybody hurt their back during those days. My dad would tell me men would pick up pieces of wood so big and put it on their shoulders that they couldn't get it off. And they would have to help them get it off of their shoulders because it was so big. The bone and the muscle structure of people back then were different than it is today. People today get hurt. They hurt their backs. I mean, I hurt my back all the time. Because we don't have what they had as far as the minerals and the nutrition. Our bodies are not made like they were. My dad was a workhorse. That man was like a machine in his 60s. I was a young man in my 40s, and I could barely keep up with my daddy, and he was in his 60s. I mean, these people were tough. It could be cold outside. I'm talking about in the teens and the single digits, and my dad would act like he's not even cold. He'd be out there doing stuff, and I'm out there bundled up like, and he'd look at me, he'd say, son, what you doing with all them clothes on? I said, it's cold. He said, you younger generation, he said, y'all got to toughen up, I mean. Another instance, a neighbor friend of mine, when I lived in another county, in his 70s, We had a freak freeze come through. It got down into single digits. My water froze, and my pump lost its prime. I went over. I had an elderly neighbor that lived across the hill. I went over there, and I asked him, did he have any water? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I need to reprime my pump. I got stuff thawed out, but it lost its prime. The foot valve on the bottom of it was bad. And he said, yeah, let's go get you some. So we went outside. Now, I'm bundled up in a field jacket and all, you know. I get out there, and he looked at me, and he comes out in a denim shirt with a knot tied right here, unbuttoned down with a knot tied right here, in a pair of blue jeans with the first cuff rolled up on them, with a pair of broke-in shoes on with no socks, and it in the single digits. And this man was 73 years old. And I said, man, you better get you some clothes on. He goes, why? I said, it's cold out here. He said, when I was a kid growing up, this wasn't nothing. He said, oh, I'm okay. And I was concerned about the man. Thought he'd get pneumonia or something. He walked off out there, no ground crunching under your feet. Sounded like you're walking on cornflakes or something. It was so froze. We got out there, got the water. I was able to get my pump primed, and I've often thought about that. How that old man in his 73 years old, the cold didn't even affect him. And I look at us today, and I think about how that the old stuff and the old ways, everything's gone now. People today are totally different. The makeup of our bodies are different, mainly because we've been lied to. We haven't been told the truth about a lot of stuff. Our Earth is going through, and our solar system is going through issues right now that in the history of this country, we don't have any history about any of this, because these cycles only come around, some of them every 1,200 years, every 3,600 years. So we don't have a history about any of this stuff. And when you try to start talking to people about it today, to explain to them about the magnetosphere and how things are beginning to work, they look at you like you got 3 eyes or 2 heads or something. They're like, this guy's lost his ever-living mind. All they know is from the house to a vehicle to a cubicle, back to a vehicle to a restaurant to a house. I mean, that's all they know. Their feet hardly ever get stuck in the dirt or the soil. They're always on asphalt, or they're always in a vehicle. They're always sitting under air conditioning. They're always in a controlled environment. They have no clue about this sun behind me. See how bright it is back here? I'm sitting in the shade. That's how bright that sun is today. It looks plumb washed out. It's so bright. And I'm trying to keep a glare off of the lens of this camera right now, because it's making me even look washed out the way the sun's bearing through here. That you try to tell people this today. Is the information out there about all this? Yes, this is not new. Solomon said in the scriptures, there's nothing new under the sun. What we're experiencing now with the magnetosphere and getting ready for quote-unquote possible pole flip and all this kind of stuff, the magnetic north is moving. None of this is new. This has all happened before. It is in history. You've just got to go back, and you got to go back to sometimes the 900s or before Christ's time, or maybe the 1500s or 1400s. Lots of this stuff, these solar cycles, happened during those times. Did it kill everybody? No. Did a lot of people die? Absolutely they did. I mean, we lost entire civilizations in some places because of climatic events that took place. And in our history books, they just tell us, well, this group or this tribe of people just ceased to exist, and we really don't know why. Yes, they know why. We have 3-letter agencies in our government that have people dedicated to nothing but studying ancient history about the solar system, ancient history about all kinds of things. We have people in the 3-letter agencies that's involved in archaeology. When they're finding these artifacts, some of them hundreds of feet below the surface of the earth, that's more advanced technology than what we have today. And yet they hide this stuff from us. because they don't want us to think that there was anything here before us that was more intelligent than we were. And guys, the whole theme of life today is out with the old and in with the new. Now, is this a new concept? Absolutely not. Even in the scriptures, the Lord talks about getting rid of the old stuff in our life. Get rid of the old man. And when we become a born-again a person, in with the new man, out with the old and in with the new. The scripture talks about that. So, is any of this stuff new to us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the fact, these shoes I got on right here is a prime example. I'm going to pull one of them off here. If I can get it off. This shoe right here is a boot. It is a farm and ranch boot made by Georgia Boots. I used to wear these when I was in the construction business. I wore these for years and years and years. I could walk on metal roofs with them, everything. I mean, they were very tough, very durable. My daughter bought this pair of boots for me about 4 years ago. Well, I'm the kind of person that already had shoes, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put these boots up because there may come a day when, when I don't have a good pair of shoes to wear. And I'm going to, I'll have these. They'll be new shoes. And we always tell people, when you're stocking up, make sure you get your extra pairs of shoes to sit back so that in case you don't ever have them. Well, even this company, as good a shoe as that is, because it's an expensive shoe, it's way over $100. Way over $100. I got this pair of boots out here a while back because my LL Bean ones that I had gotten had wore out. And I said, well, I'm going to start wearing these farm and ranch Georgia boots my daughter bought for me several years ago. Well, I put them on. They still fit, like they always did. Felt good. Started wearing them. About the first week I wore them, I was out at the shop and I went to walk. I noticed I felt something on my foot. And I looked down, and right here on the tip right here, the toe had done peeled away from them and had peeled down. Now, all my years of wearing these boots in the construction business, that never happened to me. Never. The sole would wear out on them from walking on concrete, but the boot itself never broke down. So I began to look at that, and I was like, now that just don't make sense. So I ordered and got me some shoe goo in, which my grandfather was a cobbler, so I know how to fix a shoe, okay? I learned from my grandfather. So I put the shoe goo on, I clamped it, let it set for 24 hours, and took it off. I began to test it. I said, wow, that's actually better than what was on it, Well, when I bent the sole like this, guys, that sole right there is starting to crack in about 8 different places. And it's never been in the sunlight. It has never been, it's always sit in the closet in the boot box until a week ago. And yet, the sole is breaking in about 10 places underneath it. So, it doesn't matter what we do today. It doesn't matter if we try to stock up. It doesn't matter what we try to do. The bottom line is, the system that is set up for us is out with the old and in with the new. The materials that these shoes are made out of now the upper part of it is real leather, okay? But the sole part of it that's underneath it, even if it's not used, is designed to break down. So they don't want us keeping or having anything for very long. They want us to constantly be purchasing new stuff, and everything now is a throwaway society. I call it the microwave society, instant gratification. So where does that take us today? You know, I mean, what does that leave us? With the new AI technology that's out there, and guys, don't look, AI is not new, okay? Let's just go. AI was created in the late 1940s. And yes, it's been built upon for many, many, many years, but here in the last, since 2017, 2017, AI has been used only for Big Brother, okay? Well, now the technology is out there for everybody, and it's in everything now. And AI is all about advancements. It's all about out with the old and in with the new. And you're going to start seeing some things now. I'll give you, for instance, Wanda and I we're going to be retiring over here to Pecan Grove. We've told you guys that. And we've told you if you want to keep up with us, you're going to have to subscribe to Pecan Grove MS. That's our new channel. Because that's where everything we do will be done at. Now, we're not going to take Deepsouth down, but our new life and what we're doing and the advancements that we're making in this new world that we're living in now is all going to be done over here at Pecan Grove. I'm not doing stuff at Deepsouth anymore. I'm getting Deepsouth ready to be put on the market at some point in the future. I don't even know when I'm going to do it. It might be this year. It might be next year. I don't know. The Lord hasn't given me that open door yet. And yes, it is even important to speak to the Lord about whether or not you should get rid of something. And about the timing of it and everything like that. I talk to the Lord about everything. Before I get rid of the old and move in with the new, I got to make sure with my Heavenly Father that the timing is right on it. And so many times we think that, I'll tell you what, I even go this far. I don't jump in a vehicle and go to town unless I first ask the Lord, is it right for me to go to town today? That's how crucial I believe our conversation with our Father should be. Lots of people just run to town because they want to go to town. A lot of people run to town, well, I need this, and they just jump in a vehicle and haul tail to town, you know, because, oh, I need this today. Or they go to a grocery store, they go to a hardware store, whatever. I don't do that. If I'm out working on something and I need something from town, I'll say, Lord, is today the day I go get it? Or do I wait and go another day and do another project here on the place? Many times they'll tell me, say, move over to this project and start doing it. And when I move over to that project, I'll realize that there's something on it that I need from town. And then when he'll say, okay, now tomorrow morning, bright and early, run into town and get that and get back home before 8 o'clock. And that's what I do. I take my life with my Father that serious. At Deepsouth Homestead, we're going to be downsizing. We have been selling, getting rid of, giving away lots of stuff that's been sitting there for years and years and years, and it's been doing us absolutely no good. We're not going to use it at our age. So we've been blessing other people that are younger than us with things that we know they'll use. We're getting rid of some of the old, and we're making some of the old work with the new. At my age, I use a lot more technology now than I used to use. Used to, you know, I was 6'3" tall, 240 pounds, strong as an ox. I didn't think twice about grabbing up stuff, picking it up, toting it around, doing things like that. But now that I'm in my mid-60s, I'm still 6'3", but I had to lose a lot of weight because toting that weight around at this age is not good. And plus, it's not healthy. So now, I use new technology. I have forks on my tractors. I have grapples. I have buckets on the tractors. We have the Rangers. We have all this stuff. That makes life so much simpler for us. Like I put the plywood on the high tunnel this morning out here. Wanda said, "You need me to help you hold that?" I'm like, "No, I got it. Go ahead and pick the garden." I said, "I got this." I told her, I said, "That's why I have machinery today." I took the forks on the tractor, picked a sheet of plywood up, used it for a sawhorse, drove up to the high tunnel, took the forks, flipped it forward, pushed it up against the edge of the building, set it off, backed off, dropped the forks down, slid up there, picked it up, set it on top of the forks, lifted it up, walked up there, pushed it in place, screwed it off with the gun. Piece of cake. Did the whole high tunnel in about 15 minutes by myself. So technology is a good thing. Years ago, I would have manhandled it every bit. Could have probably still done it in 15 to 20 minutes back then and not even been tired. But today, I was able to do it. Not tired. Got it done in real quick time. Sometimes, you have to incorporate new technology in, and it makes things a whole lot simpler. When I was here years ago, we would hoe the gardens. We would stay out there with a hoe, just hoeing and hoeing and hoeing and hoeing. Then we tried the weed fabric. And the weed fabric is a good thing. If you've got small gardens, hey, it's a great thing. I have no quarrel. Matter of fact, we still use it in small gardens. But I went back to the old technology with the Cub tractor. And guys, it's like night and day. I can plow a field and it looks perfect when I get through with it. It's weed free. The produce grows immaculately in it. So not all the old technology is not bad. As a matter of fact, I love my Cub tractor and all the implements I have for it. Sometimes you can't improve upon old technology. My new Kubota tractors, I've got 2 of them sitting up here. Neither one of them is designed to work in a garden with. They're too low to the ground. I mean, they're 12 to 14 inches off the ground. You can't plow field. You can't plow plants with that. And plus, they're way too wide. You just can't raise gardens with these new tractors like this. You waste too much space. And all your implements are 3-point hitches that goes on the back, which means you got to be constantly turning around like that, looking behind you to see if you're covering something up. Where with the old technology, it's right in front of you right there. You're watching it as you drive over it, and you can see everything, and you don't have to spend your time with your neck turned backwards, because that's even unscriptural. Do you know that? Do you know it's unscriptural to look back? The scriptures tells us a man who looks back when he's plowing is not worthy of the kingdom of heaven. You know what I mean? Christ said, I press forward to the mark that's before me. I don't look back. The Apostle Paul talked about not looking back. We're only to look forward. We're not to look back. That's why I knew when we come up with the new technology of 3-point hitch stuff, it wasn't meant to be, and I wanted to go back to the old Cub Farmall. And I wanted to go back to it. What chapter and verse? Jeremiah 6:16. Return into the old paths. Where are the good ways? You know, my friend. Now that doesn't mean we got to go back to horses and buggies and all that kind of stuff. But no, it talks about our way of thinking. We got to go back to the old paths. Let's get back to doing things the way the Lord intended for us to do them, and not the way man wants us to do them today. And I think once we do that, we'll be a lot happier and a lot more successful in what we do. And plus, out with the old and in with the new. When you start taking all the old stuff out and putting all the new stuff in your mind, you know it clutters your mind up really, really bad. We talked about this last week. Sometimes we just get an overload and we got to clear our mind. That's even in the scriptures also. The Lord gives us a list of things. He says, think on these things. Google those things and see what it brings up. When the Lord says, think on these things that are pure. The Lord gives you a list of things there. If we'll think on those things, our mind will not be cluttered, and we can actually, believe it or not, you'll be able to hear the Spirit when it speaks to you. Wanda laughs at me sometimes because I'll go sit down in the house when it gets to be 100-something degrees outside for a few minutes, and I just got to have a break. And I'll pull up a YouTube video that's just funny. It's clean and it's funny. And Wanda will look at me and she'd go, "What are you laughing at over there?" And I told her, I said, "You just ought to see this guy right here." I said, "He is hilarious." I just got to clear my thought train out, because when I sit through some of these meetings that we sit through, I come out of there and I go, what's the use of doing anything if this is fixing to happen? You know? And I'm like, wait a minute. God's still on the throne. Man is doing lots of crazy things. But God is still on the throne. And He still directs our paths. He still orders our steps if we are in tune with Him. So I'm not going to focus on, oh, the sun finally went under a cloud. I'm not going to focus on what what man wants me to do. I'm going to focus on what the Lord wants me to do. I mean, we were sitting in there the other night, and they were talking about we're fixing to move 300,000 troops into the countries that surround the Soviet Union. And then France is going to move 300,000 troops in there. And then we've gotten 5 new supply lines set up to feed all these troops, and they go in there and to care for them and to bring in artillery. And we're quickly getting all these roads and avenues. And I told Wanda, I said, you know what that means? That means it's fixing to happen. You don't go spend billions and billions and billions of dollars setting all this stuff up if you're not planning on doing something. And then we turn around and we're right here 90 miles south of Florida down here. We got all the Soviet Union down here doing military maneuvers 90 miles off of our coast while we're 90 miles off of their coast or their borders. Guys, it's fixing to escalate. So I'm telling you, get rid of junk in your life that you don't need right now, and get the stuff in your life that you do need, predominantly the Lord. Get ready. It's about to break loose here in the future. And guys, remember I told you, just calm down. The last Porch Time, just calm down. The Lord has got this. Now, is there going to be problems? Yes, there's going to be problems. There's always problems when you have war. There's always problems when you have things like this happen. Is there casualties? Yes, there's always casualties. But that's why knowing the Lord is so important. Because when this stuff happens, we don't have to be freaking out about it. Because we already know our destination. I've read the end of the book. I know who wins. I know my Heavenly Father. I know where I'm going. And if I know these things, then I have no need to be fretting, worrying, or anxious, freaking out, all this kind of stuff. Matter of fact, Matthew 24, Christ tells us, don't do that. These things has got to happen in order for our redemption to take place. Love you guys. Thank you from Deepsouth Homestead.